the myth of the full stack developer. Today's topic on another Real Tough Candy live stream. Happy Saturday. Ooh, sorry about that. My throat is making Tuvan Blues music noises. Have you guys seen those Tuvan Blues throat singers? They're really cool. They go like that. I can't even do it. Welcome, everyone. Happy Saturday. Hope you're all doing well in your part of the world. Today's topic is the myth of the full stack developer. As a self-taught developer, as a completely self-taught developer, full stack seems to be what they're pushing upon us as far as educational materials, the popular ones anyway. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about job listings. Is this a conspiracy invented by greedy human resources departments and middle manager types? Or is it just fulfilling a need in development? We're going to talk all about it. Live chat is enabled for your supreme enjoyment. Hello, Paradoodly-Doo, mod extraordinaire. Sammy Turner already checking in before the live even started. Sammy, I like your style. I feel like you never sleep. I mean, I relate to that. Even if I might be totally wrong about that, but every time I'm online, you're online, and I know we have a huge time difference. And it's nice seeing people that I recognize throughout the 24-hour clock. So shout out to my insomniacs. Sammy's like, what are you talking about? What's up, GTD? How's it going? Thank you for your patronage. GTD is one of my newest patrons over at patreon.com/RealToughCandy. Hello, Rick. Hello, Diego. Candace, hi. Hi again, Dr. Candace, checking in for multiple live streams in a row. Good to see a lot of people back here. Janos K. Eduardo, hello from Croatia. Zdravo, Eduardo. Tamla Brooks, how's it going? Donovan, how are you, my friend? Namood. Namood's back at it in the chat, too. I hope everyone is doing well. Hello, Jay Cruz. So Paradoodly-Doo is our mod. She's also learning how to code. I got the update from Paradoodly. So last weekend, she had a goal of learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in the weekend, and I wanted to encourage her. I didn't want to, dampen her dreams, but I said to myself, this could be a challenge. Well, she managed to do some HTML, and now this weekend, she started learning JavaScript. She's using Mark Meyer's Smarter Way to Learn JavaScript. She's also learning with a Smarter Way to Learn HTML and CSS by Mark Meyer's, and I hooked her up with an educative front-end course for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So she's using all that stuff to learn the basics, and I'm so excited for her. Welcome, my code newbies and people in the industry. So I want to talk about this full stack developer thing because some people say that we're unicorns. I might even say we're unicorns. I trained myself to be a full stack developer. I worked in enterprise as a full stack developer. I also do full stack development with my freelancing business and with other things. I do freelance or full stack projects, just personal projects. I consider myself a full stack developer. Well, the problem is most full stack developers are better at one discipline than the entire stack. Most full stack developers are either better at back end than front end, or they're better at front end than back end. If I had to assess myself, now I know it's hard to assess yourself objectively. I'm pretty good at databases, honestly. I should have been a DBA. I would have rocked it as a DBA, a database administrator. I'm really good at databases, especially SQL stuff. I'm good at SQL queries. Like, that's my thing. It's like totally non-cerebral. I was good at SQL before I even studied SQL. It just makes total sense to me. Where I'm not so good is backend languages like PHP and runtimes like Node. I'm just not that great at it compared to databases and compared to front end. As a full stack developer, better at front end, better at databases, and maybe it's that whole left brain, right brain type of thing. I don't know. Product placement. Product placement now available on CandyScript, my Teespring store. Thank you guys for your support. T-shirts. Oh yeah. And also stickers. So we're going to go over some job listings today and also check out some of these Udemy courses because it's all really full stack. Let's do a roll call. Let's check in and see what's cracking. 41 viewers already. If you guys are checking in, do me a favor, hit that like button so YouTube knows that this is a video worth some people's time. Marco, hello. Hologram Nunchuck, how's it going? GTD says, I think full stack is just a job marketing term for someone who can handle anything in the general scope of development. Great comment. I totally agree with that comment. Agent 091. Haven't seen you in a while, Agent. Where you been? Diego, I do everything, so I suppose I do everything horribly bad. Now, let's go over here to some of these job listings because I want to illustrate how even job postings for front-end developers, they're actually looking for full stack developers, right? And why wouldn't you? If you can do it all, if a person can do it all, of course it would make sense to look for someone who can do it all rather than just front-end. So this is an ad for a creative front-end developer in San Francisco. Look at the requirements here. I'm just going to give you a minute to look at these requirements. I'll zoom in. You guys can see this, right? These are the requirements for a front-end developer in San Francisco. Just give yourself 30 seconds to read over these requirements, and then we're going to go over the nice-to-haves, all right? Now remember, this is a front-end position. I will let you read this. All right. So you can see here, HTML, CSS, Git, planning, nothing too out of the ordinary. But then we get to the nice-to-haves. Nice-to-have database experience, specifically MongoDB. Some experience with GraphQL. Interested in exploring motion design paradigms. Interested in 3D rendering. This is not, databases are not front-end. AWS is not front-end. GraphQL, a lot of people we'll give them a pass for GraphQL. We'll give them a pass for GraphQL, but MongoDB is thoroughly back-end. AWS is thoroughly back-end. They really want a full-stack developer. And I think a lot of companies are just seeing that they can get more bang for their buck if they can convince front-end developers to learn back-end and vice versa. If they're looking for a back-end developer, you know that job listing is going to say, would be nice if you know HTML and CSS and a framework. So I do think a lot of it is just companies wanting more bang for their buck. Can't blame them, but at the same time, it's like, well, where do actual front-end developers fit in? Because if you're a front-end developer with all these skills, but someone who has back-end skills comes their way, that person just got hiring priority. So it's tough, you know? It's tough. It's freaking tough. Here's a front-end developer in Philly, 60 to 80K a year, urgently hiring. And front-end developer right in here, they have experience with Python or Java. Hey, look at this. I haven't even looked at this one. Job description, I want to emphasize, it clearly states front-end developer, right? In the job description, it has the following bullet point. Exposure and interest in full stack development in one of the following: Node.js, Python, or Java. So it's like they're grooming these developers to become full stack developers if they haven't had that exposure yet. Not just exposure, but interest. You know, they still might consider you if you haven't had exposure, but interest, you have to have an interest in full stack. Why is that? Are they trying to groom front-end devs to become full stack devs? When I was in enterprise, I was I mean, I was DevOps, I was full stack. It was the whole enchilada. It was super effing stressful. I know I've mentioned it so many times, but I mean, that was the hallmark. That was a hallmark feature of my job. Because it was a smaller shop, and because my employer wanted someone who could dabble in it all, he didn't want highly efficient smaller teams. He wanted one big team who did everything. And as you can imagine, that organization really made for some high stress situations because full stack developers are generally exceeding in one area. Can I work in back end? Yeah. Am I the best at it? Mm-mm. Now that is something I can continue to get better at, and that is something any developer can. It's a skill. It's just like anything else. But I mean, naturally, what I'm attracted to is front end and design. What I'm good at is database stuff, but that can get really kind of tedious. But I'm good at it. But it's like, no, we want you to do everything with like the servers and stuff. Just like, ooh. This is what most of these companies want. And I really think full stack developers, if the companies are expecting full stack developers to excel equally in each of these departments, they're looking for a unicorn. Which, if you check the thumbnail of this video, there's a pretty beautiful unicorn I slapped on the front. I have met many talented developers over my just brief time in this industry. I've only been in for a few years. Met some really talented people. And the majority of the time, they excel either in back end or front end. Here's another interesting side topic. Like, do any Americans do back end development? I feel like that's not even a thing anymore. And like all back end is either they call it DevOps, or they're just looking for a full stack person, you know, a front end developer who also does back end. Like on this channel, even and in the Discord, I hardly meet anybody who is pursuing strictly back end development. And I think that is like such a needed skill, even with this excitement over serverless and stuff. Serverless still uses a server. It's just a little more abstracted and it's not as obvious. But serverless, there's a server out there or multiple of them involved in the process. So somebody out there, some back-end developer has to take care of that serverless stuff. The serverless server. Let's go to the comments and see what's going on. 60 people in the chat. Welcome. K3VAZA says, one thing I never understand is when applying to junior jobs, they want 1 to 2 years experience. Makes no sense. Absolutely. You know, and that's the thing too. I want to do a public service announcement here. When they say any of these freaking job announcements, okay, if they say 2+ years experience for a junior, just apply anyway. This thing's a freaking wish list. If someone with 2+ years experience comes and applies and you only have 0 years experience, you're probably going to get looked over. But a lot of times, I mean, people who do have 2 years experience in getting paid for web development, they're mid-level. They're probably going to be looking for mid-level jobs at that point. Some might even be capable of doing a senior level job. People with 2 years in the industry aren't fishing for junior dev jobs, you know? So this is just a wish list. Just apply anyway. The worst they can say is no. In the words of my aunt. She told me that back in the day and I said, you're so right. Because I used to be really shy about doing things and, you know, scared about feeling vulnerable about a result I couldn't control. And she said, RTC, the worst they can say is no. Right on. Right on. So don't let these requirements overwhelm you. At the same time, you have to be picky about what jobs you apply for because some of these, my friend Laszlo, right? He's the dude who he's working remotely right now. Thankfully, he started working about 2 months ago. He got a $10,000 raise his 3rd week on the job. But when he was doing his job search, he sent me this job opening where they wanted I think it was a full stack developer who could do light laundry. It was at a massage parlor. It was a total mess. It was a total mess. So just read over these and, you know, use your brain. Discern whether this company sounds legit or not. Before you apply, absolutely research the company. Just spend a few minutes checking out the company. Because some of these are fake listings or illegit, or, you know, they're trying to data mine people and stuff. Make sure the company is legit. But when you see all these bullet points and stuff, that's just a wish list. So if you're feeling it, definitely apply. I think that's my main message with that. Let's check out some more comments here. Sarah's here. What's up, Sarah? How's it going? Sarah, oh, checking in. Hey, Gregory, how goes it? Tomas. Rick Cable. I do, and my company is now moving a lot of dev back to onshore. I just got loaned out to a new team to take over an offshore code base. Interesting. Rick, I would love to pick your brain more on that. I'm trying to get more people on the show. Not that I'm like, Rick, come on the channel. I wanna hear more about your experience with that. Candace says, I wonder if they focus more on automations in the back end as well. That's a great point. You know what? That is a great point. A lot of this stuff is becoming automated, is becoming self-maintainable. Not everything, of course, but a good amount where we just are having computers compute for us. That's the point of computers, right? Computers now writing their own programs. Ooh. Come, enter no man's land where computers are writing their own computer programs. And that's a great point. Let's see more of these comments. I love all these comments here. Guten Tag, Austin. Donovan says, I have done backend in my jobs where I did PHP and MySQL type of work. I had to clean a SQL database with duplicate data IDs. It was a pain, LOL. Man, trying to restructure databases and, oh man, it's tough. Any type of refactoring is tough when it's someone else's code, but especially with databases, because that information, I mean, the information in the database is the heart of the application. If you're ever wondering what is the most valuable part of a software application, find out what part of that application you're not exposed to. 100 times out of 100, it's going to be the database because that's where the money is. From data, you can extract information, and information is very, very valuable. The CSS is pretty, but it's public facing and it's no secret. It's no secret. If CSS was truly that valuable, if the designs were that valuable, they'd be abstracted, and we wouldn't be able to see them simply by opening up the dev tools in Chrome or Firefox or, God forbid, Safari. Do you guys know Safari actually has a developer tools panel? It is kind of sad, but I've used it a few times. Wim says, I remember you reading that bonkers listing. Yes, I know. It was absolutely crazy. It was so funny. Full stack laundry. Sammy says, yes, I can do full stack laundry. Wash it and then dry it, LOL. Sammy, you've got the job. I mean, I can't. And you know, that kind of employer was going to pay that person $14 an hour in a major metropolitan city. It's just like, how many red flags are there? The saddest part is they're going to be sifting through resume after resume, application after application, people just trying to get a foot in the door, not caring if they're taken advantage of or exploited. Developers, this is a career field where you do not have to settle. You don't have to settle for getting exploited, especially. There are so many opportunities. Why do you think these people in Silicon Valley only stay at their jobs for 1 year? Because the opportunities are popping like this. And it's not just in Silicon Valley. It's everywhere around the world. The opportunities, it's an employee's world right now. It's a developer's world right now. That might change, but right now we have unlimited opportunities. So I pity the fool who is working full stack laundry in this big city for $14 an hour, but hopefully they'll come to their senses and see their worth more. Don't ever undersell yourself in this industry. There's too much need for us. Even juniors. Your first year as an employee, you're usually not adding that much value to a company, but they're expecting some, otherwise they wouldn't hire you at all. So that first year, you're really leveling up. You're really taking a lot of stuff in. And ideally, by the end of that year, you're going to go from 0 to hero. If not 0 to hero, at least 0 to 10, and make that huge leap. And then after that, I mean, once you get that year in, the world is yours. Once you get your foot in the door, don't take your foot out of the door, because the opportunities are absolutely endless. Okay, let's talk about this other thing with full stack development. This full stack developer is a myth. There are a lot of forces influencing developers when it comes to what stack they pursue. Now, for me, being in North America, being in the States, I don't see a lot of advertisements. I don't see a lot of channels. I don't see a lot of support groups or meetups even for back-end developers. I just don't see it. That isn't to say at all that back-end developers don't exist. What I am saying is that the advertisements, the meetups, the groups cater generally to full stack development, or we could say general programming. Now, yes, there's JavaScript meetups and stuff. There's front-end developer meetups, but we do have a lot of full stack or general interest tech meetups, at least in my area. So if we go to, let's take for example, so this is an example of one of these forces that is pushing people to full stack. As 100% self-taught developers, and guys, even boot camps, they're teaching the full stack. But if you're doing the 100% self-taught thing, you go to Udemy. Most people, we've heard of Udemy. We at least have one course. You're trying to learn web development. What do you come across? Web development boot camps. We have Angela Yu's. We have Colt Steele's. We have Andre Negoy's. We have many others. This web developer boot camp, I think, is one of the best-selling courses on the entirety of Udemy. Udemy has like 100,000 courses. It's either 100,000 courses or 100,000 instructors. Either way, that's a disturbing amount of courses, and this is one of the best-selling. Over 500,000 students enrolled. This isn't to say that everyone who has enrolled and taken this course has a developer job, or that they're even interested in a job, but this is an example of a massively successful online course that teaches full stack web development. And might I add, the full stack here includes MongoDB. What else? That's pretty much it. Does he teach a framework in here? I forgot. I don't think so. MongoDB, Express, Node. Yeah, that was the other one. Node. Where's Node? Node. So server-side frameworks, intermediate Express, working with APIs. Working with APIs is arguable about where does that actually fall? In what jurisdiction? Is that back-end or front-end or somewhere in the middle? Because I think there are a lot of, or at least a handful of things back-end and front-end developers share. APIs is one of those things. I've seen just as many full-stack developers front-end and the scant amount of back-end developers work with APIs. So I think that falls in everyone's territory with that. Git and GitHub, that's something we all need to know anyway. But the second half of this course is dedicated to the full stack, or dedicated to the back end. Thus, training over 500,000 people for full stack web development. Are there front-end boot camps? Possibly. But I promise you they are not nearly as popular as the full stack online boot camps. Angela Yu, Colt Steele, Andre Negoy, etc. Here's this complete front-end web developer bootcamp, 14 projects by Igneous Technologies. Let's see how many students are enrolled in this. Last updated November 2017. Avoid. Absolutely avoid this. But this is an example of a front-end focused course. This is the top result on Udemy. hasn't been updated in 2.5 years, and 10% of the people are just like, meh, it's just okay. So most people are, I would argue that most developers are being trained for full stack roles. But there's something to be said for that discipline in the front end, knowing deeper the technologies in one functional area as opposed to being a generalist. I'll tell you what I don't like about being a full stack developer. I can never catch up with everything, and I can never be really, really, really good at one thing. Because my attention is diverted to the database, to the backend language or runtime runtime, the front end stuff, the user experience. Don't forget that too. All employers want people who are experts in experiences and interfaces. DevOps stuff. I do webmaster stuff for my own business. That actually is still a term. Some people are like, RTC, seriously? You just said webmaster? That's a thing. Google Webmasters is a really valuable and educational group. I often consult their writings. I just feel like I'm just drowning in all of these technologies and things to do. I would much prefer to be, and I can never call my expert in anything. I can never call myself an expert in anything. I'm always just the generalist going to the latest problem. And there's some great benefits to that. But I do sometimes envy people who are front-end developers who really are good with React, or back-end developers who really are good with Node, who really are good with PHP or Java. And I just don't have that deep knowledge of one particular technology. So I don't think it is. It's not as great as the hype suggests, because I can build a full stack web app, but any good piece of software is built with a team, number one. And number two, I just want to feel smart. Can anyone else feel me on that? Man. GTD says, I think trying to master JavaScript is like trying to hold back the ocean of a new framework with a broom. Get back there. Get. I think the phrase she is looking for is called a T-skill. Interesting. That's a new term. From what I get, that's a new term for me. From what I gather, hardly any companies use NoSQL MongoDB. Rather, they use relational databases, which seems easier to maintain by a DBA. Yeah, Troy, I really don't want to bag on MongoDB more than I already have. Developers on this channel know I'm not the biggest fan. I just think it's so overhyped. Most companies aren't using it. Look at the stats. Look at the stats available to us. Most companies are not using MongoDB. Your best bet, if you're trying to learn database stuff, go learn MySQL. Go dabble in PostgreSQL. Go dabble with Couch. There are many relational database management systems. SQL Server. If you're a Microsoft person, there's plenty. I mean, there's plenty of flavors for that. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I think, you know what I think? I think MongoDB has a lot of money to spend for marketing, whereas something like Couch or like Maria or something, or even PostgreSQL, Mongo has this to spend, and therefore it's just a bigger influencer. But it's a lot of bark and not a lot of bite. MongoDB for most of us, I think, is really useless. I'm not saying skip it or don't learn it, because it does have its uses, but we got to go back to what is really being used in enterprise and what is really being used just in general in the real world. Let's check the comments. Ooh, Ryan Raymond, thank you, my friend. Thanks for your videos. Learning as I go as an electrical engineer, trying to supplement my skill set. Right on. Good for you. Electrical engineering. Good deal. Thanks, Ryan, for the super chat. Thanks for tuning in. Donovan says, I didn't realize that about MongoDB. Then again, my company doesn't use MongoDB. GTD says the professional use .NET or Java, but they're far more stable and realistic to build up an enterprise code base or platform. Dr. Candace using Java, Python, Flask, Spring, and MySQL. Donovan says, yes, we use SQL. Wim says, where do you find these stats? Google it. Google enterprise usage of SQL versus MongoDB, or some similar terms. It's not hard to find. Rick Cable, I work in a large enterprise. We have 2 teams, .NET, C#, MVC, and a Java team. GTD, mean, probably a bad marketing strategy for the stack. Yeah, there's a funny new stack I saw courtesy of Free Code Camp. I want to see if there's any Pern, which is Postgres, Express, React, and Node. 13 jobs looking for Pern stack developers. It's kind of a cool stack. They replaced Mongo with Postgres, which is a big, big plus in my book. Principal full stack developer in Cambridge, Nashua, New Hampshire. They're looking for a senior full stack engineer. They have engineers in New Hampshire? Where are my New Hampshire peeps? Full stack developer qualifications. Where's the name drop with the Pern stack here? They want 5 years experience. Yeah, when it says senior full stack, I would be a little more hesitant to apply if I was a junior. But if the job description aligns with your talents, just apply. The worst they can say is no, and then you'll be on your way. We are looking for a consumer-minded full-stack developer with 2 to 5 years of experience using the Pern stack. Postgres, Express, React, and Node. It'll catch on. Postgres is, it's not new, but it's getting there. Let's go to the comments. Julio says, full stack was created by employers so that they can pay less for developers. Yeah, I think they're just trying to get more bang for their buck. I don't blame them. If I was an employer, as an employer, I want everything done for free, right? If I can get it done for free, if I can have a high quality job done for free, of course I'm going to opt for that. Any business owner would do that. So now they're thinking, well, why would I hire a DBA, DevOps, front end, back end, UX, UI? That's 5 freaking roles right there. And let's just say for kicks, they're in the Midwest. Each of these people is getting $70,000 a year. That's $350,000 a year on payroll for 5 people, right? Why would they spend $350,000 a year for all those people when they can pay one person $60,000 a year to do everything? What they sometimes don't realize is that these developers, these full stack developers, aren't 10 out of 10 in every category. But somehow they still keep looking for full stack no matter what. It could be junior, it could be senior, it could be front end, it could be UX. Let's do, what about UX? Let's do UX Node and see what happens. UX, I'm curious if our employers also looking for full stack developers in the UX UI field. Inquiring minds want to know. UI UX developer in DC, 85 to 115 a year. Pro tip, if you apply to these jobs at Indeed and you're talking to the recruiter and you have these numbers in mind, just get it right out of the way. Now, do it diplomatically, but there's no point in talking to this person if the actual salary is $55K. Now, this happens all the time. I don't know why they throw these numbers in here, but a lot of times they're thoroughly inaccurate. The last thing you want to do is bang out that interview, rock that interview with $115,000 in your mind, but, well, actually, ma'am, they're only paying $60. And considering your experience, we're going to pay you $45. Like, you just wasted 3 hours of your life or more. So, pro tip, diplomatically make sure you and the recruiter or the interviewer, whoever's on the other end of the phone, just make sure you're on the same page with these numbers. By the way, what in the world is a swamp poodle? I just had a vision of a poodle in pink sunglasses coming out of the swamp. What is a swamp poodle for 500, Alex? So this is a UI UX position. Here is what they're looking for. 3 years with experience with the DOM, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Ajax, jQuery. Oh my God. Bonus but not required. Knowledge with preprocessors and front-end tooling workflows. Node.js, NPM, Bower, Sass. So, can generate proficient documentation using Microsoft Office. Working in an agile environment, that's not out of control. Experience with data integration, understanding and experience with RESTful API design. I'm sorry, but that's not what a normal UI UX developer does in my experience. They're pinning on many other bonuses here, many other things. RESTful API design, like, well, okay. Let me back up. Let me back up. Because they did emphasize design, but still, I can already see this employer pushing for just full-on coding skills, front-end coding skills, and eventually, we already saw the danger word here. Even though they're talking about NPM, they said Node.js. I can already see this turning into a disaster. By the way, Sam, can you troubleshoot the server? We're going out of town for the weekend. Do I sound better? You really, and this might be a good time to do a PSA too about interviewing your interviewer. Some of these companies are they're out to take advantage of you. Now, I am not opposed to corporate work. Like, there are a lot of benefits to working for a corporation or even a small business. Number one is a consistent paycheck. You show up, you do the job, you get paid. Theoretically, it sounds like a pretty good deal. All I'm saying is that if you're not doing your homework with these companies, there may be a chance that they can take advantage of you, and you just don't want that. The last thing you want on your resume is that you worked at a tech company for 3 months. So why did you leave after those 3 months? In explaining that to another employer, you generally want to try and stay for a year. Now, I know that's not possible in a lot of these like bad situations some people get into, but if you can stay for a year, that's usually a pretty good sign to an employer. Let's go to the chat. Karen, hello, welcome back. Welcome to the party. Thomas, we got some new people joining us, 101 watchers. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday. Welcome to another Real Tough Candy live stream where we are talking about the myth of the full stack developer. We have a lot of new members. I want to give a welcome to all you just joining. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into the chat. Paradoodly, Sammy Turner, did you see Delilah at the club last night? Total swamp doodle. Sammy says swamp doodle. Sounds like a diss of some kind. I might just steal that. I think I'm going to have to start using that. Swamp poodle, swamp doodle. Have I been saying swamp doodle? I can't speak. Developers, you know me. When I go live, I can't even speak. I am the most inarticulate fool. So I'm thankful for you tuning in. But let's go back to what I'm curious about is people's learning journeys. And then going into the workforce. Now, some of you have shared that. Donovan was saying he was working with the LAMP stack. He was doing some database tweaking. Way back whenever, I don't know. I don't think it's currently. I think he's doing some other stuff nowadays. But how many people have taken a course that relates to the full stack? Press 1. If you own a Udemy course, a book, or some other instructional material that covers the full stack of web development, press 1 now. GTD says, yeah, definitely agree with making sure you're interviewing the company you are applying for. Make sure the culture and values align with yours. That's exactly it, GTD. Company culture cannot be emphasized enough in this live stream and in general, because a company's culture, I'm like managing to twist myself on my own microphone cord. The tangled webs we weave. Company culture, it really defines your mental state at work, your emotional state. If you're going to work with people you don't like, if you're going to work for a company whose mission you don't believe in, if you're going to work with a boss who believes in X, Y, and Z, and you believe in A, B, and C in your core, you are at the wrong frickin' company. People will say grin and bear it, but as I discussed earlier, there are so many other places you can go where your values will align with the workplace. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be a one-to-one alignment, but just generally, you want to be able to go to your workplace and feel valued. You also want to go to a workplace that doesn't feel hostile when it comes to your own person. Do you see what I'm getting at? I don't want to get too much into it because a lot of this is kind of veering on hot button issue stuff. But I mean, company culture really just encompasses all of that. So maybe just emphasize, interview your employer. Make sure it's a place you want to go to. You know, make sure it's a place you want to show up at. No sense in switching careers to go to a job you hate. Especially because the money's so good, especially because the benefits are good, especially because our future is looking pretty good. Who are the people right now who still have jobs? Well, people at grocery stores, people at Amazon, and people who work on computers like software developers. All of us are capable of working from home. Now, fortunately for me, I've had very little disruption in my work. I do have some more free time due to some reorganization, but it's not like I went from job to no job a couple weeks ago. If anything, I have more work. But I am reorganizing things and restructuring things, so I do have some more free time because I don't want to burn out. But that is beyond the scope of this video. Look at all look at all these people who pressed one for the full stack experience. All of these people in the chat right now, except Thomas. Thomas, what does 2 indicate? 2 indicates I'm out. Does 2 indicate a front-end course or something different? But look at all of these people who said, yes, I own a full stack developer course. Thomas, Troy, Austin, Sammy, Mark, Ozzy, Donovan, Sashir, Noah's channel, Julio, Deez, Richard, Candace, iRock. Add me to the list. I own multiple boot camps. App Academy Open. That's one I've reviewed for this platform. Full stack with Ruby. Donovan says, I mostly do Angular these days. I might be getting into React in the future thanks to the upcoming project at my job. That's right. Donovan has done it all, man. I think he's done help desk or IT support. I think. He's done LampStack and now he's doing front-end frameworks. He's doing Angular stuff. He is tasting the rainbow with all of these technologies. Rick says, I got more work. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the change in dynamics with what's going on right now with software developers and freelancers and stuff. And also, too, because we are distancing, there's less opportunity for me to actually go out and do my thing, you know, and just like socialize and stuff. So I'm here and I'm like, I could be feeling sorry for myself. I could be reading stats and feeling totally panicked and paranoid, or I could be bettering myself. I could be getting some work done. What am I going to do? Because eventually this is gonna subside, and we gotta be ready for that. We gotta be ready whenever, you know, we don't know, a few weeks, few months, whenever it is, but it's coming. It's coming back. We gotta be ready for that. We have a few more people who have the full stack developer experience. Jacob, Sarah, Wim, Janos. Thomas says, it means my last Udemy course was just PHP. So he hit 2 for PHP. Fair enough. Fair enough. Discify says, ask questions to make sure they're a company you can learn and grow at. Great point. You want to be, you know what? Let me go through a few more comments here, and I want to come back to that because that's a great point. Awesome live chat. It is totally lit right now. Candace says, usually ignore the ones where they mention looking for coding ninjas. Oh my goodness. Coding ninjas is so just, it's cringy. You know what else is cringy? So we have ninjas, we have rock stars, we have gurus. Right, exactly. Those are code words to me for like, next, swipe left. Just keep swiping, just keep scrolling to the next one. That's just like hipster language that's meaningless, and it's just usually a bad sign. What does that even mean? Is there an actual definition of a code ninja? Like, must wear black belt to work. Like, I mean, if that was a requirement, okay. But it's just such a hype word, it doesn't mean anything. Let's go back to these comments. Swamp Poodle. Kelvin says, I got fed up with this exact thing and I quit my job to start my own startup. I'd rather be full stack and work overtime for my own business. I'd rather build my own dream. Kelvin, congrats to you. Shout out. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, entrepreneurship and small business is certainly not for everyone, but for those who enjoy it, it is such an adventure. And knowing that you're building your own future and your own legacy, it's a real challenge, and it's so exciting. And putting yourself in these situations where you may not know the outcome, it can be stressful. But it's like, okay, even if it totally fails, at least I tried for my own future. At least I can't fire myself, you know? Like, I'm always going to have a job with me. Krishna, welcome to the chat. Sakajawa, the reverse interview on GitHub, the Joel test are 10 out of 10. Jay Cruz says they're multidisciplined, but they are not about knowing Node. Just going through the comments here. I'm going to take a little sip. Take a little sip. Candy script cups. So excited. I broke the handle in my own kitchen. I did it all for the JavaScript available on Candy Script. Those stimulus checks are coming soon, developers. They said spend that money. Don't hoard that money. So if you're needing some swag, check out Candy Script. Candace says, when being interviewed, I try to see myself in that company, so I tend to read people and also look at the work environment. Yeah, that could be a good technique too. Checking out these jobs and going into the interview. Imagine you're actually working there. Imagine that is your first day. What impressions do you get? Really take the time to turn your brain into a sponge. It's already going to be super stressful going through the interview, but afterwards, it might be nice to just take a deep breath. You know, look around the corner. Notice what people are doing. Notice how people are interacting. Notice how people are treating each other. Notice the communication and the power structures, the power dynamic of that workplace. Is that a place you see yourself working? That's all you got to ask. Now, sometimes there's not enough information, and sometimes we misinterpret things, but there are other ways you can gauge as well. Sometimes, too, you're going to be coming in for a second interview, so you can use that second interview time to absorb even more of that company. So there was a comment here. Sorry, I already forgot your name. It was disc something. Discus? Let's see. Troy Mitchell says, I got to get some Jelly Bellies for this great entertainment. Love me some Jelly Bellies. Troy, you're onto something. So somebody in the chat mentioned that find a company, try and make sure you find a company that you can grow at. And that's a great point. There are jobs out there. Some jobs are better than others, developers. What are the opportunities for growth at that company? Will you have a mentor, or is there a possibility that you can have a mentor? Will you have a supervisor who's going to show you the ropes instead of just, here's the manual, figure it out? Some people might do fine with that environment. But if you're looking for mentorship, if you're looking for different ways to grow, which everyone should be, make sure that company offers that in some way. It can be informal support. It can be a formal program. It can be a part of the benefits package. You know, some companies what's the term for it? There's a certain term for it where they allow you to work on personal projects or personal growth on the clock. And I know Google and other FANG level companies allow this. It's to encourage your growth. And theoretically, it's going to make you a better employee because you're going to learn more, you're going to level up, and you're going to add more value to the company. So great point with that. Let's check out more comments. The chat is absolutely on fire right now. Rab Young, are there jobs willing to train you, having absolutely no experience? Rab, unfortunately, they're few and far between. And in fact, I wouldn't count on it at all. All companies want someone with experience, even coming in with zero, like absolutely none, like having no self-training. Unfortunately, there just aren't any companies that I know of that would be willing to do that, to just train you from the ground up. Like, the only thing I can really think of is internships. But usually you have to be enrolled in a college program, a computer science or equivalent program, to be accepted into those internships. Never take an internship that's unpaid for tech. I mean, any unpaid internship is exploiting the worker, IMHO. But especially with tech, you got to be getting paid with that. Now, not 6 figures, but you should be getting paid for your time because you are at that company and you are adding value eventually. You will be adding value eventually. Rick Cable says, work my way up from help desk to senior dev. Right on, Rick. We actually talked about that in a video the other night. One of the easiest strategies for becoming a software developer, and one of them was help desk. Because help desk, you're not working with React at help desk, but you are thinking in terms of problem solving, and you're working on that problem solving process. You're amongst computers. And the computing environment, if you will, is at scale. It's not just one computer you're working with. You have, if you're working at a college computer lab or something, there's 50 computers that you have to help people with, or people around the world calling you for help with their issue. Help, I can't find the power button. And just also working on your communication skills, empathy, all kinds of soft skills there too, in addition to tech skills. Mark says unpaid internship equals volunteering. Exactly. Thomas says, been doing the web stuff for years, but I actually prefer C++. You want to know what's funny, Thomas? I was on an Amtrak a couple years ago, and I was just doing my thing, and the person behind me referenced C++ and said it was shorthand for copy, paste, paste. I'm not hating on C++ at all. I just thought that was so funny. I like C++. These comments are great. Rick Cable, I've been at my company for 16, going on 17 years. Good for you. So, Rick, let me ask you this. You said you've been busier with the current situation, with all these social changes. You're busier at work. Can you go into maybe just a sentence or two of what exactly is busier at your business? I'm curious. Paradoodly, drop in the link, 8 soft skills for software developers. Yes, if developers are out there looking for soft skills, I believe in soft skills. Some people call them a great big nothing burger, but I think they're totally wrong. Soft skills are things like communication, organization, empathy. There's a whole list of them. But we have articles for every flavor at RealToughCandy.com, and Paradoodly do just pop that link for people working on their soft skills. Thomas says, well, I loved it when we could use classes in PHP for the first time after years of C++. Look, PHP has come a long way, especially with the advent of PHP 7. We now have frameworks like Laravel, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but Laravel is a great addition to the PHP ecosystem. I really abuse that word ecosystem, but it's so fitting for a lot of this stuff. PHP is actually, I think it just gets dismissed way too easily. Rick Cable says offshore is on lockdown. They can't work from home due to security issues. Marcel Wedhorn is asking about the Mac webcam. I don't know if I can answer that, Marcel. GTD, soft skills are the glue between the bricks of hard skills. I like that. Sakajawa says, soft skills carry me in my interviews, to be honest. Rick, weak link for our company. We are now patching, but new team will take up to 6 months to get up to speed. Yeah, training a team, man, it takes a long time. It takes a long time. Like the enterprise development, especially. Like there are different tiers, and there are different, and I think a lot of it goes to the culture too, part of company culture. Like there are some workplaces where business casual is enforced, or you know, what, I don't want to name drop any. I'm not trying to shame companies that enforce dress codes and stuff, but I mean seriously, if you're not going to be working with the public, who cares if someone's wearing a hoodie? Now, fortunately, most employers that I've worked with, most employers I've researched, they don't have a dress code, but some still do. You have to wear slacks or a skirt if you're a woman, and a nice blouse, presentable blouse. If you're a guy, khakis, nice pair of Dockers, and maybe I don't know, like a polo shirt or something. Presentable polo shirt is like, do you not understand our life consists of our eyes going like this in front of a computer for 16 hours a day? Like, Docker pants and like pencil skirts are not conducive to this. Just, you gotta dress for the job, man. Swamp Doodle. We have a Swamp Doodle in aisle 6. Is anyone in the Washington, D.C. area? Can they give us some backstory on swamp doodling? Can I make that into a verb? Or a gerund? Yes, I've been swamp doodling my life away. Where's the lie? No lie detected. Morgan Marshall, don't underestimate how many employers hire people just because they can get along with them. Again, another great point. You can be the best developer in the world, but if you can't get along with the team, you're out. I was reading an interesting article the other night about this guy on Medium. The title of the article, Paradoodly, try and find this article. It was a really interesting read. Why we fired our best employee. And it was about this coding cowboy, this coding commando cowboy, who took matters into his own hands. And he was the only one who knew the entire process. He was the only one who knew the code, the process, the inputs, the outputs, the requirements of this huge program. This application was put on hold for 2 years because his name, they use the name Rick. This is not his real name. Because Rick got to the point where he was the only one who could do anything with the program. And they kept pushing it back. They pushed it back 2 years. Finally, there was an explosive meeting with the higher-ups and Rick. And Rick said, I'm like mother effing Einstein. You can't fire me. Or something like that. It was totally explosive. And so they canned him. But the interesting part of that article is that, remember, there are 2 sides to every story. I guarantee you there are warning signs years before this explosive meeting with Rick and his cowboy commando coding style got out of control. There were problems. But what happened probably was, and I've seen this in various disciplines, not just software development, there's a star performer, right? The star performer goes above and beyond and creates a lot of value for the company. And from there, a dysfunctional codependent relationship between management and that employee develops. And it's really weird to see. It's really weird to see. These people, and they're fed. These people are fed an image of themselves from management. And this is what happens when that happens. A very expensive project was delayed 2 years. They had to hire a new team, like a couple, 4 or 5 people, to undo Rick's work. So Rick was probably a poor employee, but he was also being encouraged to be that way. And so that too goes to the company culture. This is a culture thing. Is your star employee going to be singled out and treated better than the team? You cannot write good software with just one person. Now, being in enterprise, I did have I think what resonated with me in that article was the fact that a lot of it sounded like my old workplace. We didn't have any frameworks. We didn't have documentation. These huge applications were written by one person. That's never a good sign, ever. It leads to thoroughly unmaintainable code. And when I got to my company, things were starting to unravel. But over the months, I mean, the dysfunction just, it turned from a stream, like a slow babbling brook into a raging whitewater rafting area. It was absolutely out of control. This might be a good point for product placement. I talk about all my enterprise misadventures, how I got trained up, and everything about my coding journey in RealTough software. This is my newest #1 book on Amazon. Paradoodly do. Do the chat a favor and pop that link. Were you able to find that article? Yes, it was the free Code Camp article. Good job. Great job. If you want to know about some enterprise dysfunction. Now, not all companies are like this at all. The reason this article is so popular is because it is an OMG moment that you don't see every day. So, yeah. Rick Cable says, you have to realize that your success is dependent on every member of your team being successful. Lift people up and have psychological trust. You know what, Rick? I wish I had that article, a different one, because that's a great point. One, I was reading some research, and this is what I do in my free time. I read studies, I read blogs, and I read research publications. Some are peer-reviewed, some are not. Some are just blogs. But Google did a study. Google, right? Google did a study, and they found that the #1 thing that their employees value the most among their team members is not technical ability, but trust. And when they feel that trust, they're more productive. And what the article was getting at, what the finding was getting at, is that in order for a team to be successful, they have to be able to feel vulnerable amongst their team. And what that means is they have to feel somewhat comfortable not knowing the result of an action. That's vulnerability among their teammates. And if you can't feel vulnerable, you can't trust your teammates, and you cannot produce software, you can't have a fully functional, fully optimized team. And optimization is something every management department is always aiming for, and I just think a lot of times, unfortunately, that goes over their heads. It's the company culture thing. We could do a whole live stream on company culture. Wim says, was Googling swamp poodle, shampoodle, meaning, and when I typed the M, I got shampoodle, meaning, is it poodle shampoo? Swamp poodle shampoo. Reading the comments here. Welcome everyone again. Thanks for tuning in. If you're just new to the stream, today we're talking about the myth of the full stack developer. Of course, we're having some great side conversations too about jobs, employers, management, real world interviews, and all this stuff. So, welcome to the party. This is one of the funnest portions of the entire channel. If developers, you have not been tuning into the live streams, they have been so much fun. So much fun and just knowledge in the chat. If you're watching this after the live, be sure to enable that chat on the right side of the video because that's where most of the action is, and that's where the excitement is, to be honest. Let's check out some more comments. Sandra Cooper says, hey RTC, what advice would you give to a woman in school at the age of 47 and starting out? I want to be a full stack dev all the way from the Bahamas. First of all, Sandra, thank you for tuning in. I'm feeling that the Bahama Mama, the vibe coming in. You guys had Bahama Mamas? I used to be a bartender, and that was one of our big drinks. The Bahama Mama is like 90% straight up booze and like a little shot of orange juice. Advice for a woman in school at the age of 47, want to be a full stack dev. Okay. Sandra, what are you in school for right now? That would be my first question. And no matter what you're in school for right now, just remember that all of our experiences can help us become developers. Because at the root of what we do is problem solving. Whether it means having a strategy for finding your keys when you lose them, having an optimized routine for making breakfast, or being able to keep track of what pair of socks we wore on what day. We want to keep track of our expenditures with our sock usage. All those things require problem solving skills. So no matter what you're doing, you're problem solving. And I think it's important to bring that mindset over to programming. Because even though right now you probably are still kind of discerning and seeing these different technologies, like getting into React and front-end tools, back-end tech, databases, all these terms, all these even fundamentals, functions, variables, methods, OOP, functional programming, procedural programming, so much stuff, right? But all of this stuff really just comes down to problem solving. The practical, technical piece of advice I can give is to find, once you find a good learning bundle, and there are so many options. If you're a video learner, I have recommendations for that. If you prefer text-based editors or interactive code editors, I have some videos on that too. But I think more importantly, once you get that settled and get that going, try and find a community. Meetups, Discord, there's lots of them. I don't know if there's meetups in the Bahamas. There should be. But a lot of like Women Who Code is a great one. It's very newbie friendly. There are a lot of newbie friendly meetups that I encourage people to take advantage of because people generally there are very friendly and they want to see you succeed. As far as materials, the 2 books I can absolutely wholeheartedly recommend for full stack development. Now, you generally want to start with the front end, learning HTML and CSS and JavaScript, because that is quote unquote a little easier. Like it's all hard stuff. But with at least when you start with HTML and CSS, you're able to see your results in the browser and you're getting that feedback, that positive feedback. Whereas if you start with back-end development, some people do, but it's tough for a lot of us because we don't have that visual and we don't have, like pretty things in front of our face when we're working back-end tech. And the 2 books I can wholeheartedly recommend that have helped me, Paradoodly Doo is just starting her coding journey. She started learning HTML and CSS last week. Now she's learning a little bit of JavaScript this weekend. I recommended to her 2 books, Mark Myers, A Smarter Way to Learn HTML and CSS, and Mark Myers, A Smarter Way to Learn JavaScript. These are fabulously written books for newbies. Each lesson's like a page. He doesn't throw these crazy concepts at you all at once. It's like super digestible. And I think that's a really good way to ease into it. Also, freelancing is a great way to get started too. If you have a friend or family member who needs just like a landing page or something. It's never too early to start building web pages, even if you know just a little HTML and CSS. Paradoodly, you got to do me that favor. Pop those links to those 2 books to A Smarter Way to Learn HTML and A Smarter Way to Learn JavaScript. Full disclosure, those are Amazon links, and I might get a couple cents if you buy a book. Jacob says, I don't distinguish between front-end and back-end developers. I distinguish between skilled and partial skilled developers. Knowledge in specific languages is no real skill. It's just an extra. Interesting. Thanks for the comment. Bonnie G. How's it going, Bonnie? Does anyone know if there is some way to get onto Slack if you're a solo worker and want to learn how to use it? That's a good question. Somebody help Bonnie out with that question. I do not know the answer to that. Thomas says, I started programming in BASIC on a Sinclair ZX81. Old schooler alert. I love it. Once spent a few days on the back-end code and my boss wanted to see what the page looked like. awesome. It's great. This is what I love about this community. People who come to see these videos and interact. We have such a diversity of people in obvious ways and in not so obvious ways. Some people work full stack development. Some people are working in jobs right now in development. Some people are still trying to make that transition. Some people are still working in a job, in a career field they wish they wouldn't have. They wouldn't be working in. Some people have 25 years experience. Some people, like Paradoodly Do, just started last week. And it's an honor to be a part of everyone's life right now, here and now, on this Saturday, April 4th. Hope you guys are enjoying the live stream. I'm going to go over a few more questions and see what we have to say. Today's topic is the myth of the full stack developer. Thanks, Paradoodly Do. Shout out to Miss Paradoodly Do, who is not only our mod extraordinaire, she is going on this coding journey, and from my understanding, she's really loving it. I think she had a mild level up today. We were talking, and we were just seeing where she was with JavaScript. She started learning about variables, also wrote her first Hello World program, and she said she feels great. She downloaded her own code editor. I'm so excited when people cross over and see the potential of this career, not just career, but the potential of code and where it actually can bring us, what it can build, what it can do. It's just great. Dr. Candice she's been rocking it in the medical field, and she has a huge interest in working on medical models and solving serious medical issues in this world. And she just earned her PhD the other week. It's great. You can take it anywhere you want. Just checking out some comments here. Austin says, Dankeschön for the recommendations. Those will help me as well. You rock RTC. No problem, Austin. I just absolutely, I do endorse those books. I tried to get the author on this channel like 3 years ago, but he was like, I'm not one for the camera. I was like, you know what? No problem. I just want to say thanks for writing some real great books. He's not in the tech industry. Like, he's an outsider. He has a bachelor's. He's graduated from an Ivy League university, and the Ivy League university doesn't call it a bachelor's. It's called an AB. I have no idea what it stands for, but he has an AB in philosophy from Stanford? I can't remember. It's a prestigious school, and this guy's he's older. He might be in his 70s or even early 80s. And he wrote these books. He has books on jQuery and Python. All of his books are great. But for getting started, HTML and CSS and the JavaScript books are just tops. Let's go over today's topic, the myth of the full stack developer. We already have been going over it. That's the rub, my friend. Taboo Smash, how's it going? Thanks for the super chat. He says, hey, or Taboo, sorry, I am currently a junior in IT. I want to know what it will take to work remotely in a company, and we can work internationally as a web developer. All right, Taboo. I have some good news and bad news. The good news is, as a junior in IT, you are already honing your skills with computers, with technology. Now, I don't know if you're trying to transition over to software development, but working remotely, here is why employers are not excited to hire new people as remote workers, because they haven't established that trust factor. If they're new to the industry, if someone is new to the industry in tech, it doesn't have to be software development necessarily, there's a good chance they will need someone to answer their question right away in real time. And one of the most efficient ways of doing that is having that person at the workplace, where many people are able to interject and reframe and kind of right the ship, if you will, for that employee, for that new hire. I did a video. I wasn't excited to do the video because a lot of people are looking forward to having their first job remote. I was one of those people. I wanted to work remote like since I was 5. But most employers are really hesitant to hire juniors as remote workers because most juniors do need that supervision. They do need that real-time interruption, if you will, the pattern interruption if they're doing something that maybe might be away from the norm, or just different behaviors and stuff. So you have to build that trust. Is it possible to get a remote job your first year? Yes, it's possible, but it's unlikely. Now, the best way to get a remote job is to just, from the get-go, do your best to convince your employer that you're able to work on your own without direct supervision. That's a really hard task, and I don't know if I can go through all the steps to do that, because it really is a process. You know, building trust is one of the hardest things we can do as people. Is one of the hardest challenges we have as humans. How do you convince someone to trust you? It's a tough question, right? But if you can convince your employer to trust you, you could probably work remote. Working internationally as a web developer, yeah, in the States, there are some requirements. A lot of companies in the States will not hire foreign employees, but there are many who will. And there is a list out there. I was looking at it recently, because companies who do hire foreign workers have to disclose what percentage, and they have to disclose the numbers for their workforce, and who's on visa, who's in the States, etc. Try and Google that list and maybe target those companies if you are looking for an international job, or a job at least based in the States. I can't speak for other countries. GTD says, like Rick says, remote work is far more difficult and not really easier than in an office. Danielle Bloom says, Mark Myers has his AB from Harvard. Thanks for the correction. I knew it was somewhere out east. I knew it was an Ivy League status, Ivy League level school. He has an AB from Harvard. Yeah, it's in philosophy, and he wrote the most amazing books on HTML and CSS and JavaScript for newbies. Awesome. Thank you, Ryan and Taboo, for the super chat. Thomas says, most doctors here in England stare at computers now to give them the answers instead of using their own brain. Medical apps can save the world. Sandra says, thanks a lot, RTC. Awesome. I'm studying IT management. Did a little HTML, CSS. Have to pick up JavaScript. We'll get the books. Yeah, and keep me updated, Sandra. I'm curious what you thought of the books. What other resources you're going to be using. Definitely keep me updated. IT management, that's great. That's great, because a lot of people, they major in. Now, I know I've ranted on this in a previous video, but I think colleges and universities need to be more transparent with just the practicality of some of these degrees. Most people are going to college because they anticipate being employed in that field after college. In other words, people aren't going to college for fun. We go to college to get educated and land a job in our area of study. Now, technical schools are different because they go right into the protein of what you're supposed to learn. There's a lot of hands-on learning. But for something like management, you have to go to college. There's no vocational school for management, at least to my knowledge. But IT management is a great adjacent area of study for software development. So I think you're already on the right track with that. Where it is a little more challenging is when people come from, they have a 4-year degree from a state college in creative writing or something, which is, I went to a college for creative writing, and I wrote about that in Real Tough Software too. Just seeing, so in orientation, we were in the auditorium and we were segregated by majors. The creative writers were in one corner. There was like 6 writing nerds, and then they announced, okay, in this other corner, computer science majors, go. And it was a flood of people. And I say, what have I done? Why do I always pick? Like, I just choose poorly. I don't regret it, but it's just like, man, if I would have really stayed in school for a bachelor's in creative writing, I mean, it's just a doomsday major. There's nothing you can do with that to make money except go teach. Let's see. Leon says the BS you get from university doesn't stand for Bachelor of Science. You know, they say master's degrees are the new bachelor's. Bachelor's degrees, I mean, yeah. It's really, there is some sort of like a degree inflation going on here because honestly, bachelor degrees, having a bachelor's, it's a great achievement. It's a great achievement and it's nothing to be, I mean, that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal, especially if you're coming from a family that hasn't gone to college or a non-traditional background or you're going to school later in life. It's a huge freaking deal and that's a big accomplishment. It shouldn't be downplayed. But what kind of sucks about it is that there is like this inflation where you have people saying masters are the new bachelors. Lots of comments here. Thanks, developers. This is a really great chat. Really robust. Danielle Bloom, thanks for saying both my first and last name correctly. Danielle, I assure you that never happens. That is a total one-off. If I mispronounce your name from here on out, I truly apologize. I'm so bad with pronouncing names. Haben Daniel says, I just came from Africa. I have a bachelor's. What do you think about doing an online master's? Number one, it would depend on what the degree program, what your major is for your master's. And number two, the real big gotcha with online degrees is that you have to put in the effort because you could easily just have someone else do the degree for you. At least with the in-person college, you have to show up to pass. But if you do it online, you could just pay someone a couple $1,000s to be like, hey, dude, you're me for the next 6 months. You're me for the next 2 years. Go get my degree for the credential. Number three, you also have to be wary about which college or university you select that's online. Some of these are straight up diploma mills. They're just there to fire up the dot matrix printer and say that you graduated. Definitely research, do your due diligence, do your research, interview this school. Getting a master's, getting any college degree is a very big deal. It's expensive, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of brain power. And there's a huge opportunity cost because for those 4, 6, 8 years that you're going to school, you could be doing something else. So you want to make sure that those years that you spend in college are getting maximized. So maximize your time, especially with online colleges, because there are so many ways where you can just like take it easy. And then you graduate and you're like, oh, did I learn anything? So what I'm saying is be very active if you're going for the online option. Be very proactive and go above and beyond because the online standards. I've taken a few. I went back to school last year. It was an online program for the Oracle DB certificate. And, I could have just slept through it, but I needed to take it for my business. So I had to pay attention. Julio says, I think bachelor's degrees are still valuable, assuming you major in a STEM field, for example, and not something like human development. That's it. You know what? You know where human development majors end up? So if they end up in a school, great. But most people doing creative writing, human development, sociology, you know where they end up? Twitter.com, posting hate messages. This is why we have seen Twitter devolve into the current state that it has. We have all these people, these educated, unemployed people not knowing what to do, what else, than to go on Twitter and ruin someone's life. 98% of cancel culture supporters, I am convinced, are unemployed people with bachelor's degrees. Francisco says, master's degree? It's a no for me, dog. Put the trust music. Hey, what does a full stack developer do on a daily basis? Is it similar in most companies in terms of activities and not in terms of tools used? Put the trust music. Great question. And that answer is 100% dependent on that company. You may be doing something completely different every day. You may be working on a feature for 3 months. You may be doing DevOps stuff. It really depends 100% on the company. There's no standardization. There's no universally recognized certificate for front-end development. You don't need to have a pass from any sort of government institution to practice front-end development or full-stack development, rather. It's a mishmash. It's a total mix. It's a total pick and mix, total grab bag. Really depends on the employer, which is another reason to do your due diligence with these employers, because one person's idea of a front-end dev is another person's idea of a UX UI person. You know what I mean? There's a lot of intermixing. I hear people call themselves software engineers, and they're building landing pages. I don't agree with that, but you know, it's just because there aren't any standards, and because there aren't any universally accepted titles, that people do call themselves things that maybe maybe the work just doesn't apply, or their title doesn't apply to their work. It really comes down to the employer. Comments are en fuego right now. Ian Bayless is here. I almost freaked when my friend's daughter was going for a 4-year liberal arts degree. Everyone else was congratulating her. I was cringing. I know, Ian, right? The thing is, you want to be excited for people who go to college. That's exciting. That's exciting that people are expanding their minds. And there is value in the liberal arts. I believe in the liberal arts. I got my first degree when I was 18. I got my associates when I was 18. And all those credits were from liberal arts courses. So, you know, some computer courses here, but I didn't, you know, pick a track. I took everything from bowling to logic to English. And it really opened my mind. But I have to be honest, even as a high achiever, as a teenager, I was 18 with an associate, I still couldn't get a call back for a freaking fast food job. So they're good for they're great for personal growth, but you got to get a check in this world. You got to make some money. And a lot of most of the liberal arts degrees just aren't going to do that. STEM degrees, on the other hand, as I think it was Julio had mentioned, now we're talking, now we're getting somewhere. But even computer science majors, they're not learning web development in school. They're not learning modern web development. They're not taking courses on Node, PHP, maybe a course on Java, maybe some Python. But especially with web development, they're not learning mobile development. They have the foundational knowledge, and they have the algo skills generally. Maybe that's an overstatement. Usually they're going to be studying some computer science and programming basics. Generally, they're learning Java or more and more Python. So they do have a leg up in that sense. But even coming out with a computer science degree, you still have to learn the practicality. These aren't trade schools. But yeah, Ian, I hear you on that. Like people, I empathize with both people who are congratulating this person, but also cringing, because it's just like, it's good for you, but in 4 years, you're going to be 80 grand in debt, which does not erase if you declare bankruptcy. You're going to be $80,000 in debt and no freaking job. And someone in the comments just said Starbucks. You know? It's really sad. It's really sad to see. Thomas says, I hate Python. There are no semicolons. I feel you, Thomas. I do love Python. I do love Python, but there are some things coming from JavaScript. I'm like, oh, wait, is this okay that I do this? Asking Python if things are okay. This is how I interact with my programming languages. Yamzi Black says, most job openings require full stack knowledge, i.e. Vue.js, Node.js. As a beginner, I'm fascinated by the backend, but don't know if I should follow it or try full stack still. Sammy says right on about Twitter there, RTC. Preach. Sammy, I'm so glad you get me. Donovan, I had the same problem with my college degree. Couldn't find a job after graduation. Had to go back to work at the time for a trade job training in help desk. Yeah. Yeah. Good for you for going back, though. I mean, a lot of people there are a lot of people. I used to work at the Postal Service. A lot of people have bachelor's degrees. There are a lot of highly educated people at the Postal Service who just gave up on their dream. And some people just don't want to put forth the effort. And it's no shade on postal people. Like, they're working. They have jobs right now. If you want a guaranteed job, go work for the Postal Service. But it's really mind-numbing work. And you wonder, what difference are you really making sitting in a basement going like this all day with postcards? Or more like it, overdue credit card bills going like this. Like, throwing packages like this. Fragile. Oh, whoops. It's what you do all day, and it's thoroughly unfulfilling. Some people gave up on their dream. Other people are just trying to make it in the world. So I don't want to knock the USPS, but from my experience, there's a significant portion of people who are just, they get stuck there, and that's sad to see. Leon says the problem with the computer science at university is that it's taught without context. Much faster to just get a job and learn by doing. Sakajawa says, being a Java developer and learning Python, I love Python. So easy to write. Right? That's what I love about it too. The syntax is just so silky. It's just wonderful. It just feels natural. That's what I love about that language. It just feels natural. Ian says, the Bayless Code, I have an AS in multimedia. I will eventually try out WGU for BS in software dev. Interesting. Pro tip from Thomas, don't mark a parcel fragile if you want it to get there in one piece. Same in the UK. GTD says, USPS is a great service that I really do value. Amazon would not be possible without companies like USPS, exactly. And, you know, unlike FedEx, unlike UPS, unlike these courier services, etc., USPS goes to every home in America. They have boats. They used to have various vehicles. They have snowmobiles. They're on foot. They're on car. They're on four wheels otherwise. They deliver to every address registered in America. That doesn't happen. I've had this happen because I've lived in rural areas. UPS will just say, sorry, we don't deliver there. Or FedEx, yeah, you're going to have to come pick it up in town. It's like, oh, really? And what happens a lot too now, not to get too off topic, but people will ship FedEx, but then the final delivery point is courtesy of USPS. I mean, honestly, developers, if you want a steady job that pays well, the USPS is there for you. It's an option. I worked there twice. I don't know why in the world I came back the second time. Oh yeah, because I was broke and desperate. But that's beside the point. I talk about my USPS a little bit in this book, Real Tough Software. A #1 book, my fourth #1, thanks to you all who read my writings. Paradoodly do. Go ahead and pop that link in there for my fourth book, Real Tough Software. Golly, my experience at the USPS was so interesting. It was like any other workplace I've ever been at. It was wild. Woo, this chat is lit. GTD says, I just still want to congratulate them for doing a job that most people would not want to do. Thanks, USPS workers. They're underappreciated. Agreed. The only thing people, usually in the USPS, the only thing people are saying is, where's my package? You will never Google a USPS branch and see a 4, or you'll never see anything above a 4 for a review. It's usually like 2.6. They lost my mail. They're dealing with a huge volume of mail, even with email and all this other digital communication that we're doing. They process a lot of stuff. Bonnie G says, yeah, I got one of those USPS packages from Amazon today. Thank you, Paradoodly Do. wait, Bonnie? The space alien degree? Bonnie, hold on. What, where does... Bonnie G says at the Bayless Code, I can relate. My niece took a uni course in her arts degree major on anthropology and aliens. 4 credits, which is like $2,000. I can't even believe it. Oh my God. That is so funny. Paradoodly Do, I need you to mod here, please. Bonnie, that is really funny. Candace said, went from warehouse worker in the Marine Corps to help desk and then developer. Long journey, but worth it. Dude, seriously, if anyone is a code rock star or just rock star in general, it's Dr. Candace. Going from warehouse, Marine Corps vet, help desk, and now she's doing crazy work, beneficial to humanity, with her software skills, working in healthcare, and also just got her PhD. Man. Maximizing. Candace maximizes her life. That's what I admire that. Seriously, like shout out to Candace for serious. Just inspiring. VWeb Code says, is getting a job the best way to make money with code? Not necessarily. You could freelance. You can build plugins. You can build, if you can build it, if you can dream it, you can build it. The hard part is marketing it. But as far I knew it was going to happen in one of these. As far as quickly making money, I would think just getting a job as soon as possible would be the quickest way to make money. Then you can start really freelancing and making more money that way with the skills that you pick up at work. Because your first year on the job, you're learning a lot of stuff. A ton of stuff. And so that's going to help you with whatever you choose. Michael says, okay, what did I miss? Michael, where have you been? This live stream has been absolutely off the charts. 91 viewers, welcome new subscribers, and everyone stumbling upon this video. Apparently YouTube advertises to non-developers too, which is kind of cool. Getting people exposed to this career field in a very non-traditional way. What is going on in the comments? The Anthropology and Aliens $2,000 course for Anthropology and Aliens. So is the current situation in education in North America. Assuming Bonnie's from North America, I imagine the situation is probably similar in other countries as well. University of Oregon. Okay, that makes total sense. But yeah, I mean, where's the, like, as a young adult, that sounds really interesting. And honestly, if I saw a blog post or something that said Anthropology and Aliens, what we know, I might even click on it. But to charge $2,000, you know, it's $500 a credit or whatever. $2,000, how is that going to help anyone? It's just such a waste, and it's such a shame. This student debt, I don't know if my international viewers know this, but America has a serious student debt problem. It is a crisis. There was some guy on Dave Ramsey, there's this video that keeps popping up. This dude's $1 million in debt, and a lot of it is student loan debt from, I think he has a medical degree. I didn't watch the video, I just read the description and the title and stuff. But OMG, this student debt thing is really out of control. And these types of courses, you know, Aliens Ate My Neighbors it should not exist. There should be a kids course at College for Kids at the local daycare. There should not be a course for adults or teens who are paying for this. Yeah, that is the state of college in 2020. Hingle McCringle comes with an interesting counterpoint. Liberal arts majors are unfortunately undervalued in Western nations. Problem is, not everyone has the aptitude for STEM, and they shouldn't be penalized financially for it. Interesting counterpoint. Thank you for pointing that out. Liberal arts majors are undervalued, and I think one of the big reasons that is, Hingle, is because there is no direct job placement with liberal arts. And also, too, the economy is different and businesses are different. Whereas in the 70s, maybe even the 80s, maybe even the 90s, let's push it a little decade by decade. Liberal arts majors could go to these companies and they could get trained. Companies nowadays are very hesitant to train employees. And what does a 4-year degree above anything say, regardless of major? I want to point this out. What does a 4-year degree of any major say about that person? What is the common thread between a computer science major, human resources, and underwater basket weaving? They all have one thing in common. They showed up for 4 years to get a piece of paper. That takes a lot of dedication. That takes a lot of discipline. That takes a lot of focus. And that is the one thing that shows, no matter what the major, that you can have the self-discipline and you can have the focus to show up, not just show up, but engage, but do the work, but listen to the instructor, but work on your communication skills and pass the courses, seek help when you don't know what to do or you're having some trouble. That's really what a degree says for all degree holders, that you have the capability of showing up. And that is a huge skill. That is, I mean, if you can't show up for the job, you're not going to last but a day. And that degree says you can show up. You do have the capability of doing so. So that is one thing to keep in mind, no matter. So, you know, a lot of people are thinking, well, should I drop out of college? If you're halfway through, and some people do ask me this question, and it's a tough one, it's a real scruple. If you're halfway through a worthless major, you're already halfway in financial debt, and there's still time to like bail yourself out. But at the same time, having that degree, education is something no one can take away from you. And having that degree, no one can take that away from you. And it will help you. Having a degree is better than not having one. But again, there's also that opportunity cost. Good conversation with this college thing. The myth of the full stack developer is the topic, but as is standard on the Real Tough Candy live streams, we go in different directions. We talk about different things. We talk about zines, cybersecurity, college, offshore work, freelancing, aliens, and anthropology at the University of Oregon. Anything. Rick Campbell, sports do add value. Yeah, absolutely. Societies need to have things in common or we won't get along. Troy Mitchell says, I think partying is somewhere in the degree too. Yes. Everybody, red solo cup, stand up. Developers, I've had a great time tonight. Thanks for showing up for the live stream. My time here is winding down. I want to give a shout out to, what's his name? Logan Black promoted this channel on Reddit. And I thank you for sharing my channel on Reddit with other developers who are up and coming. I want to thank GTD, Candace, oh my gosh, Donovan, all of the channel members, on YouTube channel members, as well as patrons. You all are the financial backbone of this channel. You make the upgrades possible. You make these videos possible. You also make the chat a heck of a lot more entertaining. Thank you. Welcome new subscribers. It's great to see so many newcomers, new faces. Bonnie, thanks for the LOL. Sammy Turner, always coming in with the LOLs. I appreciate each and every one of you. Great frickin' chat, developers. I hope you have a great weekend. We're going to be doing a live stream. At least I'm going to try. I don't want to burn out. If I feel like doing one, I'm going to be doing one. But if I don't feel like doing one, I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to try and do one every night until we hashtag flatten the curve. It could be a few weeks. It could be a few months. Who really knows? Thanks, developers, for coming to the most entertaining event of the week in my book. 100 developers we had almost in the chat tonight. Thanks, Candace. Edward, thanks for tuning in. Paradoodly-doo, you rock. Rick, Wim, Quartz3, Marco, Janos. Hey, Janos, thanks for buying some of that merch. I appreciate that. I hope it comes soon. I hope you enjoy it. Do it all for the JavaScript, my friend. Developers, have a good night. Get some fresh air. Stay safe. Peace out.